Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayaudirayet Ashtaprayashu Bhadreshu Nitam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 24, verse number 55. Tam dur aradhyam aradhya satam api dur apaya ekanta bhaktaya ko vanchet padamulam vinabahi. I'll say one more time. Tam dur aradhyam aradhya satam api dur apaya ekanta bhaktaya ko vanchet padamulam vinabahi. Tam, onto you, dur aradhyam, very difficult to worship, aradhya, having worship, satam, api, even for the most exalted persons, dur apaya, very difficult to attain, ekanta, pure, bhaktaya, by devotional service, kaha, who is that man, vanchet, should desire, padmulam, lotus feet, veena, doubt, bahi, outsiders. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Shabbat Ki Jai. My dear Lord, pure devotional service is even difficult for liberated persons to discharge. But devotional service alone can satisfy you. Who will take to other processes of self-realization if he is actually serious about the perfection of life? Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Shabbat Ki Jai. The word satam refers to transcendentalists. There are three kinds of transcendentalists, the Jnani, Yogi, and Bhakta. Out of these three, the Bhakta is selected as the most suitable candidate to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is emphasized herein that only one who is outside devotional service would not engage in searching for the lotus feet of the Lord. Foolish people sometimes maintain that God can be attained in any way, either by karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, etc. But here it is clearly stated that it is impossible to obtain the mercy of the Lord by any means but bhakti yoga. The word dur aradhya is especially significant. It is very difficult to attain the lotus with the Lord by any method other than bhakti yoga. Om Jnanti Mirandasya Jnananjan Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadameham Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Mam Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya, Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Iti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gaurvani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshatarine. Okay, my dear Lord, pure devotional service is even difficult for liberated souls to discharge. But devotional service alone can satisfy you. Who will take to other processes of self-realization if he is actually serious about the perfection of life? Sorry. All right, just let me know. Let me know what is the name of the chapter and who is speaking to who here.
Chanting song sung by Lord Shiva is
chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. Okay, and who is speaking?
Lord Shiva is speaking to Prachetas. The songs of
And what is the subject matter of conversation right now? Starting verse 4.
Devotional service.
The rarity of bhakti yoga, or the rarity of bhakti, from 54th verse to 59th verse. Okay, thank you. So here we are seeing that. Let's look at the verse. Tam dur aradhyam means dur aradhyam is very difficult to worship. See, on to you. So for who? Satam api means it is very difficult to worship, even for a Satam Api. Satam Api Prabhupada is translating as even for the most exalted persons. So even for a person who is liberated, very difficult to worship or obtain a devotional service, pure devotional service. Aradhya ekanta bhaktaya. But Aradhya means the pure devotional service is available only to a devotee. Eka anta bhaktaya. And that too with very difficulty. Dur apaya. That too very difficult, right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschit yadasiddhaye. Yadadam api siddhanam kaschit mam veti tatvataha. What does it mean? Manusyanam sahasreshu. Out of thousands and thousands of people, Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschit yadasiddhaye. There are very few who are seeking liberation. So yatatam api siddhanam, and out of those who are actually situated in liberation, who are already liberated, kaschin mam veti tatvataha, only hardly one knows me in truth. There's a hierarchy. So same Krishna, what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is what Lord Shiva is saying here, just so we understand. Ekanta bhaktaya, pad moolam, vanchet pad moolam vinabahi, means a person who is outside of Bhakti Yoga will not be looking for lotus feet of Krishna. Prabhupada translates it as, who will take to other process of self-realization if he's actually serious about the perfection of life. So basically, we have been reading about the Bhakti is a doorway. See over here, this is this. I thought, okay, if somebody becomes a pure devotee, then pure devotional service is guaranteed. But over here, this Prabhupada is writing in fine lines. There are three kinds of transcendentalists, Jnani, Yogi, Bhakta. Out of these, Bhakta is selected as the most suitable candidate to approach the personality of Godhead. So even it's a selection. A person has been selected to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it in itself is not the guarantee. If the Bhakta is not following a proper process, then that candidacy is not utilized. Right? Let's say that somebody gets elected by a difficult exam to a difficult college or course. So now they are a good candidate to complete the course, but if they don't do the course properly, even though they were selected, will they be able to come out?
No.
No.
Are you following what I'm saying? They won't be able to.
Yes.
So that means Jnani, Yogi are not even eligible candidates. Can you believe that? Person who is Jnani or person who is a yogi is not even an eligible candidate. Now, I was looking at more references. The Rupa Goswami Prabhupada also says the same thing. I mean, there are so many references, but this one is very striking. Rupa Goswami Prabhupada in chapter 1 of Nectar of Devotion talks about six aspects of pure devotional service. Who remembers pure devotional services?
Anukulasya
No.
Pratikulasya
Pure devotional
Vardhanam.
services, nectar of devotion, not nectar of instruction.
Anukulasya Sankalpo Pratikulasya Vardhanam.
So these are the six benefits of pure devotional service. Kleshagni. First benefit is Kleshagni, which Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji. That's not what I was asking.
Okay.
Rupa Goswami Prabhupada explains Kleshagni. If one is engaged in pure devotional service, then one experiences relief from material distress.
All auspicious.
Shubda, right? Bestowing all auspiciousness. Sadhana bhakti fully manifested at Nishtha. Moksha Laghu Krit derides even the happiness of liberation. Sudurlabha, very, very difficult to achieve, so rarely achieved. Okay. Bhava Bhakti is the stage when one attains the devotional service. Sandrananda Visheshatma, it's condensed bliss, impenetrable, distinctive to the nature of the self. Those in pure devotional service derive even the conception of liberation. And Sri Krishna Karshni attracts Krishna. So basically, our topic of discussion is Sudurlabha, is very rarely achieved. So one can say, okay, what stage of bhakti one achieves at Bhava Bhakti? So let's go a little deep. bhava bhakti. Okay, so it is unattainable by our own efforts. It is not by austerities or by penance, even by desirelessness. Okay, I'm not desiring anything. I have no material desires. No, Krishna is not attracted. Krishna is reluctant to avoid it, and it manifests as a stage of bhava and attained through the mercy of a pure devotee. So this is the bottom line. Then how do one attain it? By the mercy of a pure devotee. If I want to go to the chapter, let's go to the chapter of, this is the chapter of the play of the Nectar of Devotion, where Srila Prabhupada is describing each one of the aspects or characteristics of pure devotional service. When it comes to the rareness of pure devotional service, you see, Nectar of Devotion is a PhD study. So if you have ever seen like how a PhD paper is written, the PhD paper is written that, okay, there is already something which is established. It's unlike masters, masters we are trying to prove, or doctorate where you're trying to prove. But okay, PhD also in some way we are trying to prove, but we are trying to prove by giving references from the authorities. This is written distinctly as compared to if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, or if you read Chaitanya Chaitamrita or Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada gives references in support of whatever he's talking about in that particular subject. So in rareness of pure devotional service, is it okay if we read this these are the 4 paragraphs? Is it okay just to see what Rupa Goswami Prabhupada is referring
Yes,
to?
Mataji.
From here?
Yes, Mataji. Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Krishna.
Okay, let's read this. In the preliminary phase of spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes for attaining self-realization. However, even if an executor of these processes is without any material desire, or different kinds of austerity, penance, a process, he still cannot achieve pure devotional service. And aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very helpful, because Krishna does not agree to award devotional service to merely anyone. Krishna can very easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. Devotional service can in fact be attained only through the mercy of a pure devotee. So the word is only through the mercy of a pure devotee. In Chaitanya Chaitamrita Madhya Leela 19th chapter verse 151, it is said, by the mercy of spiritual master who is a pure devotee, and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of devotional service. There is no other way. The rarity of devotional service is also confirmed in the Tantra Shastra, where Lord Shiva says to Sati, my dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from material entanglement. By performance of ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy material comforts of life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries by such processes for many, many thousands of births. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj that merely by personal efforts or by instructions of higher authorities, one cannot attain to the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, who is completely freed from the contamination of material desires. In 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 18, Narad says to Yudhishthir, my dear king, it is Lord Krishna known as Mukunda, who is the eternal protector of the Pandavas and the Yadus. He is also your spiritual master and instructor in every aspect, in every respect. He is the only worshipable God for you. He is very dear and affectionate, and he is the director of all your activities, both individual and familiar. And what's more, he sometimes carries out your order as if he were your messenger. My dear king, how very fortunate you are, because for others, all these favors given to you by the Supreme Lord would not even be dreamt of. The purport to this verse is that Lord easily offers liberation, but he rarely agrees to offer soul devotional service, because by devotional service, the Lord himself becomes purchased by the devotee. Okay, because by devotional service, so this is the reason. What makes Krishna not give devotional service to anyone. And one has to go to Bhava Bhakti. One has to reach the stage of Bhava Bhakti to attain pure devotional service. And I think few verses down, we had already read that the deity worship that we do in the temple is in the mood of by sadhakas or by the practicing devotees is offered to who remembers, is in the mood of. Do you remember we studied that verse? That even if one might be worshipping the Radha Krishna Archa Vigraha, but if one is worshipping according to the sadhana bhakti or vidhi bhakti, like in our parampara, Narad Pancharartika Vidhi, then actually we are worshipping their service to Lakshmi Narayan.
Lakshmi Narayan.
Okay, in the mood of awe and reverence. It's not a pure devotional service. But nonetheless, it is sadhana bhakti, which will become fructified and pure, become bhava bhakti. It comes all the time to the 9 stages of bhakti. All right, so this verse, for me, the bottom line is that there's no end point of devotional service. Or there's no end point that I can say, okay, I've been chanting for so many years, then I have achieved the goal. It's not. You say even for thousands of births, one may do what they're doing and one may still not attain Krishna. Okay, or by our own effort, like, okay, when we come back to our own life and we say, okay, I am chanting, okay, I am initiated or aspiring to take initiation, okay, I recognize myself as part of Srila Prabhupada's movement, okay, this is becoming one of my most important priority in my life. Okay, I'm doing deity worship. Okay, I'm offering some services to the deity. Or I'm reading, or I'm preaching, or I'm doing whatever services. So I am now a transcendentalist and I have attained pure devotional service. This verse and the references I quoted are a checkpoint. No, wait a minute. No, it's pure devotional service. Have I achieved Bhava Bhakti stage? Because that's where pure devotional service is hiding itself. So tell me, what are the 9 stages of bhakti again? Shraddha,
Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya,
Bhajan
Anartha
Kriya,
Nivrutti, Anartha Nivrutti, Nishtha Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema.
Bhava Prema. So it comes after asakti. Okay, now what I've heard from other devotees is once we reach to the peak of the mountain of Nishtha, then Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema is easy. It's like a downhill, like coming down from the mountain. So the biggest problem is the first few steps. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha. So those are the things where we all face most of our problems in devotional service or in execution of sadhana bhakti. And that's where we are like, sometimes 1 step in, 10 steps out, 10 steps in, 20 steps out, like that. Okay, which is a science. How do we actually, and in that stages of Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, the most difficult stage was what, as far as I have heard from senior devotees and my spiritual master, is Anartha Nivritti. That's the most difficult stage. So now this is a checkpoint that, okay, if I'm situated in Bhava Bhakti or not, and what are the symptoms of a person who's situated in Bhava Bhakti? Because each and every stage has its own symptoms by which one can know what stage one is in. So person who is in Bhava Bhakti stage, tell me some personalities from Srimad Bhagavatam or from scriptures who are on Bhava Bhakti stage, who the scriptures validate that they were on Bhava Bhakti stage. Amrish Maharaj, okay, we can say, but I think he's already on the Prema Bhakti.
Bharat Maharaj.
Haridas Thakur also Prema Bhakti, but we can say, okay, because they are in Prema Bhakti, they already have Bhava Bhakti, okay. Amrish Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, who else?
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj, okay, who else? very, very famous pastime where Srila Prabhupada writes this devotee had reached the
Bharat
stage
Maharaj
of
Mataji.
Bharat Maharaj. He had reached the stage of Bhava Bhakti and then he fell down due to the attachment to a deer. Okay, so that's a very famous pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam of Bharat Maharaj. So when we study the symptoms of Bharat Maharaj, that's the telltale sign of how do you know or how do I know that we are situated on Bhava Bhakti platform. One is like Vairagya Vidya, right? One becomes completely renounced. It comes to know that this is the most difficult thing to achieve. This is the most rare and this is the only mission of my life. And whatever it takes. Of course, Bharat Maharaj resigned from his post of being the king of the whole world because he was situated in Satya Yuga. And in Satya Yuga, the method of self-realization is what? What is the method of self-realization in Satya Yuga?
Tapa.
Meditation.
Meditation, right? So he had to follow the process. So he resigned and then he went to the forest in a secluded place. He was not practicing Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga was just a step ladder to go in the transcendental ecstasy of being with Krishna. I mean, these are internal details, but bottom line is that Krishna is not giving out pure devotional service. He's giving out devotional service. It's not like Srila Prabhupada, because we have mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We have mercy of our acharyas in a parampara. So that way there is mercy already. Anyone who's sincere and anyone who has a sincere attitude to become Krishna conscious, the mercy is already there in the parampara. Because our parampara is Brahma Gauriya Vaishnava parampara. If somebody is like Sri Vaishnava, where Ramanujacharya or any other parampara, the mercy is there because that's the whole deal of establishing the parampara. But one has to, tie oneself with that particular disciplic succession and attract more mercy by following the orders of the parampara. Okay, so it's not so difficult to achieve a mercy, which is another subject matter of discussion. How do we invocate the mercy from a pure devotee, right? Because this is what is saying, that here it is clearly stated that it is impossible to obtain the mercy of Lord by any means but bhakti yoga. And somewhere it was written, right, that only by the mercy of a pure devotee that one can achieve this eligibility of pure devotional service. Okay, so it's there. That's the benefit. That's the benefit of being in a parampara. And if one has to keep reminding ourselves, over the weekend when I was at the retreat, one devotee said, we have to surrender to Krishna every day. Every day we have to revisit our surrender. Every day you have to say, okay, today, am I going to surrender a little more than what I did yesterday? Every day, every day, every day. It has to revisit. And how do we do that? How much serious am I to associate with the devotees? Because it says that we cannot do it alone, right? Where does it say it cannot be done alone? I think it's in this chapter 1 of Nectar of Devotion. Here it says, executed without aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very hopeful. Okay, so it has to be done under the umbrella of a parampara in association of devotees. And if we don't have association of devotees, then are we praying for it? Right? We don't have it, but are we praying for it? Are we praying to Krishna? I don't have it. Can you please give me? And if we are praying for it, we will get it. Just a matter of time to unfold. Anyway, the bottom line is Lord Shiva is making it very clear that Krishna is ready to give material comforts, ready to give liberation, but to enter into his pastimes and engage in the pure devotional service is very difficult. Like we have Srila Prabhupada, like Srila Prabhupada was, I think I said this before, was asked by a journalist one time, how do you decide who is going to be the leader of what in your organization? Like, how do you decide the leadership position? who's going to lead what. So Srila Prabhupada answered that Krishna tells me. So the devotee the journalist was like, Krishna tells me. So the devotee who was with Prabhupada, I don't remember the name, probably Rajendra Prabhu, but I don't remember, don't quote me for that. But he said that what Srila Prabhupada means is that Krishna has given different parameters to choose a leader who will be best suited for the position. So we look at those parameters and then choose. Srila Prabhupada chooses. So Prabhupada looks at him and says, no, Krishna tells me. Krishna tells me personally who will be the leader. Who should I give this service to? So basically, that's a pure devotee. There's clearly an exchange going on directly. And we have read or heard this famous pastime where Srila Prabhupada would read his own translations and his disciples would ask, do you know this pastime? Prabhupada would read his own translations, his own books, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chaitanya Charitamrita,
Yes.
Shivanabhatam.
Yes, Mataji.
And then he would
Mataji.
relish. Sama, no, Sama, yes. He would relish, and his disciples say, Prabhupada, the author, you wrote these books. Generally, the author doesn't go back and read their own books again. Prabhupada said, these are not written by me. Krishna dictates to me, and then I write it. He dictates it, and I write it. So these are Krishna's words. So powerful, right? This is very, very powerful. But we have to become a little intelligent to be able to take it with an open heart. And our heart will only become open if we have a first process of bhakti solidified, which is Shraddha. Okay, if my Shraddha or faith is weak, I will doubt it. But if my Shraddha is strong, I will accept it. Because Krishna and discussions about Krishna are Turiya. Remember, fourth dimension? It's Turiya. It's not within the 3 dimensions where we try to search things out for ourselves. Remember that discussion? Krishna is Turiya.
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
So one has to
Jagrati
put a
Swapna.
faith in the process. One has to put a faith in the mercy of the parampara, and one needs to just do it as best as we can and improve that best of one version of oneself every day and live the life in the fullest extent. And also, what is that? I was listening today, we had a class by Swam Bhagwan Keshava Swami at Gita Nagri. He was saying that Vaishnavas love life and embrace death. So he wrote a book, okay, a monk who loved life and embraced death. So it was about my god brother Jankinath Das, who was a monk in the same Bhaktivedanta manner where Maharaj was a brahmachari before. And he was telling that generally we don't want to die, but when it becomes a pure devotee, they not only love the life, but they also embrace the death, because death opens up a new avenue of service somewhere else because of the surety. And he said, he asked Jankinath in his final days that what goes on in the mind of a person who is dying. Jankinath had maybe 3 months or less than 3 months or more than 3 months to live. And he said, he asked Jankinath that what goes on in the mind of a person who knows that I'm finally dying, like really, it's inevitable now, as such as him. He said, death brings clarity, like priority. First thing was priority. I'm looking for my notes. Priority, that okay, what is the most important thing right now? Like we have example of Parikshit Maharaj. And what's the most important thing? He asked this question to Sukdev Goswami. What is the duty of a dying man? Right? I'm just looking at my note from Haraj's class today. Yeah, and then it also brings clarity that what is, everything else that was clouding the vision all through the life when the death was at the background just takes a very back seat. It's not a problem anymore because it becomes clarity. And it also brings humility. Imagine if I have a grudge against someone or something all my life and I come to know that I have 3 days to live. What will that grudge what will be the intensity of that grudge at that time? What will be the intensity? Will it be like, I have to hold on to it? What will become very
realization.
it will become very small, right? That
Yeah,
what is
dilute.
the use? Not
Dilute.
important. And he said it also brings immunity. The immunity, the concept of death in a life of a Vaishnava who has a clarity will also bring immunity from all the different fears. Because if one is face to face with the fear of one's death, then the other fears of life are not that important. So in other words, material life is fearful as long as we don't face the fear of death, and also fact of me becoming Krishna conscious. So these are some of the points I wanted to say from Maharaj's class today. It was so nice. He said real birth takes place after a physical birth, which is like initiation, and real death. So real birth takes place after the physical birth, and he said real death should take place before the physical death. And Bhakti Tita Maharaj has this very famous concept, right? Die before dying. Right? I think I've spoken about it. Die before dying. So before we actually die, then die from all those unwanted things, unwanted hankerings, or unwanted blind spots in one's life before we actually die. So die before dying. Kill those things, anarthas, before we actually die. Anyway, so that's what it takes to become Krishna conscious. It's if we read at the life of any pure devotee, tell me some of the pure devotees that you know of from the scriptures or from. Yes, last.
Narad Muni, Vritrasur.
Narad Muni, Vritrasura. Okay, who else?
Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv.
Prahlad
Maharaj, Dhruv.
Dhruv Maharaj, Pandavas. Yeah.
Vishwadeva, Parikshit Maharaj.
Yeah, very nice. Now, study the life of each and every devotee who ultimately became a pure devotee. Did they have a very smooth ride?
No. Many difficulties. Every step they have to face difficulty.
Nobody had a smooth ride.
बनी बनाई दुनिया किसी को नहीं मिलती.
Full of hurdles.
No, but not Bani, but Krishna placed those hurdles, right? Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Krishna that, Krishna, we are your devotees, you are with us, then why so much trouble? He actually enumerated the number of things that they had to face despite of being with Krishna. Our kingdom was taken away, our wife was almost insulted, we had to go on exile, there was a big war, so many people died. So what was the reason? Then in the exile, there were so many problems, how many hurdles. And then they had to go for 1 more year after coming back in a Agyata Vas, right? Like unknown, like unidentifiable exile. Cannot be identified as Pandavas. So why so many problems? Krishna said, this is my first thing. If somebody wants to come to me, then I give these difficulties because I take away everything else. So pure devotees go through it because Krishna makes them walk through fire, but this is very rare. Okay, it's very rare. And when the pure devotees are going through it, are they grudging? Like Prahlad Maharaj, father, I guess Hiranyakashipu was planning every moment of the day what next problem to give to his 5-year-old son. Do we have a lawsuit against Hiranyakashipu from Prahlad Maharaj? Was there lawyers involved? A judge? Yeah?
No,
Brahma had to
No,
come
Mataji.
as a judge to give some judgment. We don't hear all that. Why? Because, see, I'm not saying that we copy them, but understand that how rare it is to be a pure devotee. That Shastras explain that these devotees are not in touch with the ether because pains and pleasures are lying in the ethereal component of the material world. Right? The gross material elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, pain and pleasure, both are lying where? Happiness and distress is lying where? Where is it coming from? It's coming from the ethereal component. And Prabhupada explains, there's a very nice lecture. Prabhupada explains all this 3rd canto, 26th chapter, verse 35. So Prabhupada explains it, the pure devotee is not in touch with that ether. They're not identifying themselves as this. He also gives the example of Jesus Christ. You know, those devotees are not in touch with this. So they are not even like bothered even one time, because they are fully saturated with the devotional service, pure devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're fully saturated. So that's what it takes to become a pure devotee. And that's what it takes to go through. So that should be motivating us. Okay, that's a motivating thing. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to join ISKCON because it looks like a comfortable life. Then we will only get a comfortable life, not pure devotional service. Okay. Okay, any questions, reflections, realization? Meditate on this verse as a rarity of the devotional service of Krishna. Even if one takes to Krishna consciousness, are we invoking the mercy of a pure devotee by some way or the other? Any questions, reflections, realizations, corrections? Nobody?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
What is the difference between Tapo and Dhyana Mataji?
Difference between?
Tapo and Dhyana.
Tapa means austerity and dhyana means meditation. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Mataji. Austerity without meditation. In austerity, meditation will not be there, Mataji.
How can you elaborate on that? Let's say today is Nirjal Ekadashi and somebody is keeping Nirjal without water. Are they losing the purpose? Are they doing it just because they want to get back in shape from the health perspective, or are they still attached to the austerity is attached to the purpose of becoming dear to Krishna by following this vow? Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
If one is in a devotional line, it can have for an outsider. Okay, this is what Srila Prabhupada, for an outsider whose goal is not to become Krishna conscious. For example, Hiranyakashipu did so much austerity, right? He stood on one leg with hands on the air for thousands of years. Ravan did so much austerity, but their austerity was not associated with developing bhakti. But that's not what the subject matter of discussion is here. Their austerity, they were also meditating on, but the meditation was, what can I get from this austerity for my own self? But for a devotee, austerity is just to increase one's love for Krishna. You know, I'll give you an example, if it makes sense in this particular context here, how austerity is connected to the purpose. Always. That's one point of discussion. Whatever difficulties we are voluntarily ready to endure, we are taking it because it's always connected to a purpose. That, okay, what am I going to get? So the austerity, let's say a student is working very hard, you know, burning both ends of the candle. So the austerity, that person could be enjoying life, going for movies, going to malls, going to sightseeing or doing whatever, right? But then that person is very, very focused because they are attached to the purpose that I have to get to this particular place, right?
Yes.
Or let's say I have seen this a lot of time. There is a mother who's pregnant with a baby, and there is a health problem, and she's advised to stay away from certain foods which she really likes, but now she's not going to take because it will be affecting the pregnancy. So I see that a lot. Like you just, the mother, because she really wants to have a healthy child, she's going to do it. She's going to take the austerity because it's attached to the purpose of meditation, right? That I want a healthy child. Or like that, a devotee will also take the austerity because it is attached to the purpose, and the purpose is to develop love for Krishna. If I do this, I will actually enhance my love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no difference. They interconnect. The tapa is connected to the purpose, which is meditation. that clear, Mataji, or should I?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other
Hare
questions,
Krishna, Mataji.
reflections? Yes, Dr.
Hare-
Saxena.
The Nishtha, the perfect Nishtha doesn't develop because we are not able to attain the stage of anarth nivrati. Is it so?
Yes, that's what the sequence is, right? Shraddha, Sadhu, Sangha, Bhajan, Kriya, Anartha, Nivritti, then Nishtha.
Because we are not able to get rid of unwanted things. That is why we are not able to develop perfect Nishtha. That means
Yeah, I think the Nishtha is fixed and not fixed.
Steadiness.
One second, let me just check one
Nishtha-
thing, because there are different kinds of Nishtha. One second, Prabhu, I have to go back and look at my note here. When I attended Madhura Kadambini, I took some photos of the so that Nishtha, I can't believe when you need it, it's not there. Anyway, I'll come back to you on it. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, you know how Bhajan Kriya is steady and unsteady? Like that. I don't remember if Nishtha also has some
Nishtha
stage.
is, Mataji, is Nishtha is literally steadiness, isn't it?
Correct, but that steadiness has different types, which I have to go back and read.
Okay, sure.
Oh, here
It's
I
okay,
go.
Mataji.
One second.
Fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nishtha. Okay, very nice. I got it. So I don't know if I got it, but let's see. Nishtha is in a devotee who is at the stage of Madhyamadikari, and Nishtha who is at the stage of Uttamadikari is not the same. They both have Nishtha. Even a Kanishta Adhikari has Nishtha, right?
Yeah.
Some level, because
Yes.
otherwise how will we go on? So
Sure.
the Uttamadikari, how Chidi Shakti Mataji explained is that a person who is on Madhyamadikari, okay, they have 1 feet in the material world and 1 feet in the spiritual world. It's like both. Okay. But Uttamadikari, both feet are in the spiritual world. So their Nishtha is something which we devour for. But I'll come back to it later in detail.
Thanks, Mataji. It's enough. I got the point.
You got the point. Okay.